Yup, that's a nice card. What's going on, guys? My name is Mark and welcome back to Retro Heat. In this video, I'm going to go through my process of how I check my cards before I send them in for grading. Don't worry, it's not that complicated. It's a 4-step process and it's pretty simple. Let's check it out. Alright guys, real quick, I'll show you my process to see which cards I feel are good enough to be sent in for grading. And don't really need too much for this. I use this thing, which is a tool I could use to see the centering, as well as a loop on a headband. Some people use magnifying lenses, but I find this a lot more comfortable. And that's pretty much it. I'll go through the process real quick. First thing I look for is centering. I mean, you can tell off the bat that this one is off-centered, and this one, and that one. That one's looking fairly close. That one looks pretty even, side to side. Top to bottom, not so much. Off-centered, 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 fairly close, off-centered, fairly close, and none of those were centered very well. I mean, you can see sometimes it's really hard to even find a card that's nicely centered. I mean, that one's pretty close. Looks all centered top to bottom. That one's fairly close. So we'll go with this one. Not that I would ever grade this one, but just for example. And I put it here. Usually I have it in a sleeve just to measure with more accuracy the grading, the centering. So you can see this one, it's 1, 2, 3, it's on the third line. 1, 2, 3 on the third line. So it's pretty good left to right. And then top to bottom, the top is at the second line and the bottom is at the third line right here. So I mean, as far as PSA is concerned, that falls within their guidelines for PSA 10. Right? So after I see one that's nicely centered, then I'll go in and look at the corners and the edges to make sure that there's no white showing at all. And this one's actually pretty good. You can see the edges right here is kind of fluffy, but that one's pretty good. But also make sure to check the back as well. And the back of this one looks fairly good as well. So if it passes the centering as well as the corners and edges, the last thing you want to do is check the surface. So the easiest way to do that is just to have a light source and slowly rotate it so you get that reflection of the light on the card. And you'll see right away any scratches, dents, dings on the card. This one's pretty clean. And that one's pretty clean too. So I mean, you'll see it right away. So I mean, this card would be a candidate to send in. It's nicely centered, edges and corners pretty clean, surface is clean. Now if you really want to go into it, that's when I would take out the loop and look under the magnification to see all the edges and corners to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them. But that's a good example of something that you could send in. And it's not very easy to find those because you can see this one's way off centered, that one's way off centered. That one's off-centered, and it has surface issues, but I think that's just dust. Off-centered. That's again a nicely centered one, but you can see with this one, it looks to be off-centered top to bottom. And just to confirm it, see that left to right centering looks spot on, but the bottom centering 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.5. So I mean that's way off center top to bottom. Might actually be easier if you could use a white card, so here you go. There you go. So you can see on this side it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this side it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this side is bigger than this side, as well as the top 1, 2, 3, bottom 1, 2, 3-ish. I'm going off of that east word. So this side and this side are bigger. But then when you look at the card, you know, now that I point it out, you can see it. So that's an easy way to tell the centering. The original Grademaster tool. I think you could buy it off of eBay. Easy way to see the centering. Easy way to see the surface is, again, just do the reflection in the light. And you'll see any dents or dings, both sides. And then on top of that, just do the eye test to see edges and corners if they look good. And if you really want to be sure, look under magnification. Alright guys? There you go. All you have to do is check the centering, edges, corners, and surface of the front and the back of the card. If it passes all 4 tests, send it in. If it only passes 3, put it in a maybe stack. If it only passes 2 or less, you might want to sell it raw. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.